Hello, my friend. It's good to see you again. I have been very busy away from the microphone and from the website. Well, doing a little bit of writing here and there, but I have been very busy with the day job. But I have been training diligently for Spartan Race on Project Hoplite, which if my math is correct, is the last time I talked to you was let you know about this whole big 25-week program that I was working on to prepare for this Spartan race. Well, it's been about 6 weeks, and I am continuing to work on it. So let's get into it, and welcome to the Everyday Marksman, the podcast where it's all about tactical skills for living a more adventurous life. I am your host, Matt Robertson. Our website's everydaymarksman.co. There you'll find today's show notes, a bunch of really cool pictures that my wife helped take as I was doing some workouts. Comments, our awesome community of marksmen, all of that great stuff. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and also join the email list, because that is the best way for me to get you new information. Speaking of that, since this timing is going to work out, we've been running a series of postal matches in the community Discord server, which you can get a link to by joining the email list. It comes in that first couple of emails. This next one's going to be pretty neat. We are doing a pistol and rifle one that's kind of got like I call them gate checks. So you have to shoot at so much of a distance, keep it all within a certain radius. And if you can't do it, well, then you're done. And we'll see who gets the furthest on rifle and pistols. Come out, join it. Everybody's had a great time doing it in the past. So, all right, now let's get back to the topic at hand. How has the Project Hoplite training been going, and what lessons have I learned as I'm going through this? So, as a reminder, the way I'm looking at this is less about the Spartan race itself, but more about what does it look like to seriously train to be broadly capable across strength, conditioning, grit, all of that great real world stuff that comes back to the principles of being an everyday marksman, being capable to defend your family, your community, and be ready for disaster, right? So let's talk about the why on this one a little bit more. And what it comes down to is I believe in the value of doing hard things. For my family, it's important that I'm seen as an example, particularly for my son. I want him to see an active dad who puts in hard work. And I love, we just had Father's Day, and he get a little card project at school, and it warmed in my cold little heart that there was a section in there that he, my favorite things to do with dad, and it had exercise in the gym. So I feel like I'm doing something right. Okay. For my coworkers, I want them to respect my discipline and the ability to put in serious effort. It's so easy to be a middle-aged manager who just kind of lets themselves go and does the thing. And I just don't want to do that. And for myself, I want to be as mentally and physically capable as possible, despite not being as young as I once was. I'm 41 now. I've been running the Everyday Marksman for 11 years. So things have evolved over time. And, it's not the same as it once was. For everyone else, I just want to be perceived as physically capable, if not outright dangerous. But that's a conversation for another day. So like I said, I finished the first 6 weeks of training. I'm currently on a air quoting easy week of reduced load before going back into the next 6-week block. And let's talk about what I have been up to, experienced, and some lessons that I'm taking away from this. So recall the entire plan was 25 weeks. It's broken up into a series of 6-week blocks that progress from a general strength and conditioning to sport-specific training for an obstacle course race. So this officially started on May 5th of 2025. Now, the first and second blocks look more or less the same. There's a lot of value in consistency with the same lifts to see that kind of progress and drive adaptation. Okay, so rather than going entirely for my own programming like I've been doing in the past, I've been blending 3 different programs from 3 different coaches who I respect a lot. So the first one is Tactical Barbell and the Fighter template. This is a minimalist program based on barbells. Duh, it's in the name. The workouts consist of a flat bench press, squats, weighted chin-ups, and I've been adding in dips. So these are the A workouts, and they're just pure strength work. Next is Jeff Newport's Giant X program, which is a double kettlebell clean and press density system. So every session is 30 minutes for me, and the goal is to complete as many times through of a prescribed ladder as you can. Now, a ladder is written out like 2/3/5. And that means one ladder is you do 2 repetitions, wait a little bit, 3 repetitions, wait a little bit, 5 repetitions, take a little rest. That's one time through. And the goal is, if you're doing 2, 3, 5, the way his program works is it varies a number every workout to increase or decrease the overall load, but using the same weight the entire time. And the goal is to go through as many ladders as you can in 30 minutes while maintaining excellent technique and your heart rate's under control. And those two things kind of go hand in hand. These are the B workouts. And I've also been adding some rows to those as well, some chest supported rows, just to get some upper back work to balance all of that pressing work. On Saturdays, I do barbell deadlift according to the Tactical Barbell program. And immediately after that, I've been putting 20 minutes on the clock and doing as many repetitions as I can safely do, picking up a 150-pound sandbag from the ground and bringing it to my shoulder. And then when I'm done with that, I'll throw in some bicep curls because guns, right? So I've been alternating A and B workouts Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So that means like on week 1, it's ABA, week 2 is BAB. And that means each one gets done every 4 to 5 days. Okay. So that's the general structure. For conditioning, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm running Mike Perry's Building the Engine. All of these programs are linked in the show notes, so definitely check it out. They're all been great. But this particular program is purpose-built for an air bike like the Rogue Echo bike, which I have in my garage. But really any air bike will do, even something like the C2 Bike Erg that I've also got in the garage. This program is entirely interval-based. So you're supposed to do it 3 days a week, and each session has a varying level of intensity, duration, and the number of rounds for each interval. Now, since I'm doing it twice a week, it means I'm turning an 8-week program into a 12-week program, which lines up perfectly with 2 6-week blocks of training. All right. Cool. Got it. Let's move on. So what has been my finding so far? I think this has been really balanced, but it's also been quite the balancing act. I think this would not be as successful if I was not actually doing it 6 days a week. So if I was the kind of person who's like, oh, I don't feel great today, or I'm not very motivated, I'm just going to take a day off, this wouldn't be working. Okay, so I'm just going to be honest with that. Like this is a lot of effort to keep up 6 days a week and stay balanced with all these different programs. I have held at the same body weight of about 190 pounds for the last 6 weeks, which is exactly what I wanted to do. But my pants are also fitting loose around the waist. So I guess we could call this into a recomp. So let's talk about first the strength gains. I don't really ever test my 1 rep maxes on anything. So instead, I'm going to talk about gains on the training maxes, or the key lifts that I care about. A training max is like a theoretical maximum amount that I could do for 1 repetition. And I use it really only to calculate the percentages of the actual lift. So if a week, Tactical Barbell does this, but like if a week says I'm going to do 5 repetitions at 80%, then I have to figure out 80% of the training max and use that. And if I hit all the repetitions over that 3-week cycle, then I raise that training max by 5 pounds and recalculate for the next cycle. Okay, so that's how this works. So here is how I have improved in the last 6 weeks for training maxes. My deadlift went from 390 pounds to 400 pounds. My squat from 305 to 315, bench press 220 to 225, weighted chin-ups went from 260 to 270 pounds, which is another way of saying it was my body weight plus 70 pounds to a body weight of plus 80 pounds. So, and I'll point out that I actually started my deadlift and squat 5 pounds lower than I was capable of doing when I talked about this 6 weeks ago, just because I like having some runway on that. So that was good. So those went up 10 pounds. During the week 3 heavy bench presses, I called for 3 sets of 3 at 90% of max on bench press. I got the first set, and then the next 2 only got to 2 before I hit failure, or I knew I wasn't going to get another rep. So I stuck to the same weight for the second half. So that went up 5 pounds after 6 weeks. On kettlebells, honestly, I might have gone too light. So the program calls to use a 10 rep max for double kettlebell clean and press. Now I've gotten advice, and I understood in the past after running Jeff's Maximorum last year, that you should be conservative with this. So I went with double 20 kilo kettlebells, which are 44 pounds each. And I'm averaging between 125 to 135 repetitions in 30 minutes. And that just seems high. right? So like I'm tracking the tonnage of this, tonnage being how many reps times the amount of weight. And I've gone from every 3 sessions, so every 2 weeks, 32,120 pounds to 34,408 pounds. So I'm seeing progress on that, but it's just a very high number of repetitions. So I did test myself on the next weight up, the 24 kilos or 53 pounds each, and I got 10. So I'm going to bump up to that for the next 6 weeks. All right. As a bonus, I also tested my snatch, my kettlebell snatch, and got a good 3 repetitions on each arm with the 32 kilo or 70 pound kettlebell. So that's a new personal best. And also it was the first time I've ever even snatched the 32. So that was good. Let's talk about the conditioning. Building the engine is tough. I'm enjoying it, but the sessions definitely take a lot out of me. The program doesn't call for it. In fact, you're probably not supposed to do it, but I find myself taking short breaks of like 1 to 3 minutes during the sessions. Like if it calls for 16 rounds of short sprints with a 30-second rest in between each one, I'm probably going to take like a 1-minute break somewhere after the 8th round and probably after the 12th too. Given the choice of like letting my heart rate continue to climb, but then losing power in my sprints or taking a short break and making sure that I can actually put in good quality sprints for every round, I'm taking the second half of that. All right. I'm opting to have quality first in the sprints. I'm probably not supposed to do it that way, but I also just really don't like my heart rate getting really high. I just don't find that comfortable. I don't like it. Of these sessions, so there's a very short interval session, there's a long interval session, and then there's a medium one that's just very little rest. The long sessions are surprisingly tough because they just take that much more time. They're 45 to 55 minutes to complete it, whereas the shorter medium sprint interval sessions are like 10 to 20 minutes each, thankfully, because I couldn't keep it up much longer than that. Bonus, I had some sandbag gains on this. So when I started this last block, I had only gotten the 150-pound sandbag from the ground to my shoulder 1 time, and it was ugly. It was ugly. Now, I've not done the sandbag lifts on the heaviest deadlift days, so I've only done it 4 times in 6 weeks, so I skip every 3rd week. In week 1, I got 14 repetitions in 20 minutes. In week 5, which is the last time I did it, I got 24 in 20 minutes. So that's, plus 10 repetitions getting this thing to my shoulder. A lot of that's probably good technique improvement, but it is also extra progress. I've been hitting a bunch of records. So my workout tracking app, which is Strength Log, if anybody ever notices the pictures that I post, is telling me that I've hit 27 new records in the last 6 weeks. These things may be small, incremental, like adding a rep here or a little bit of weight there, but it is how you make progress over time. So 27 new records in 6 weeks, extra, awesome. So what's coming up next? Next is block 2. It's going to look a lot like the first one, keeping the same kind of movements in the rotation with a couple tweaks. I am moving up to the 24 kilo kettlebells. Because I did test myself the other day and got 10 reps with the 24. But rather than picking up like halfway through this current block of the Giant X, I'm going to actually move to the next program, which is X2, which starts over again. I think there's a risk in there of if I just jump to the next bell halfway through when I haven't been accumulating volume with it, I may just end up hurting myself or burning out. So, if you're going to do a program like this, and you're going to increase the weight, well, if the program says you should stick to the same weight for 8 weeks, don't change the weight halfway through because you can do more. Like either start it over or don't jump halfway through because you're actually going to end up breaking the whole mechanism for how it works. So we'll see how that goes the next 6 weeks. Building the engine is going to continue for 6 more weeks, and then I finish it. At that point, it's going to be midsummer, and I'll start picking up on running, which is going to be important for running a Spartan Race 10K. As much as I like the sandbag ground to shoulders, I'm really probably not going to keep them going into the next block just because the overlap with the deadlift and the squats and how they're really hammering my lower back. So I'm going to switch that to a loaded carry medley. So, pick up a bag, carry it for 50 feet or 75 feet, drop it, pick up a kettlebell in one hand, a heavy kettlebell in one hand, do the same thing back and forth and do that for some number of repetitions. So, that's kind of the main plan. I think progress is going really well. So what should you do with this information? First off, I will say that I'm 41 years old, and I don't often see people working this hard, anywhere. But I think a lot of people imagine that they're just not able to do that because, well, they're old and it doesn't matter. And I'm going to argue that is incorrect. You are never too old to work as hard as you can, one way or another. If you're not trying to make progress, you're not stressing yourself in the right way to build progress, then you're falling behind. There's a great analogy I heard about this topic that I think really plays out. The older I get, the more I talk to people who are older than me, is that fitness is a lot like trying to wade your way through a river or upstream to a river. And everybody does this struggle. The difference is that the older you get, the harder the water pushes back against you. Any setback, any injury, any time away from the gym pushes you further back than it did when you were, say, 18 or 19 or 20. And the older you get, that just gets faster and faster and faster. It just makes it all the more important to always be training intelligently. Don't, Dan John has a great line. As a book of his I just read, took on a business trip and finished the entire thing during the course of the trip. And he said, everybody can have another injury in them. You can train, you can get injured. Everybody's got another injury in them. The question is not, do you have another injury? It's, do you have another recovery? Because the older you get, the more mileage you build up. The higher the probability that last injury you get, you're never going to recover from. You'll be out of the gym too long and you'll just never get back to where you were. So it goes back to the martial marksman philosophy of playing the long game. Always, always, always train for the long game. Live to fight another day. Don't always go try and crush yourself to get that one extra ego rep or do that workout that you think is just going to be proud of. Like, train smart. Train smart. All right, that is it for me. Thanks for listening. It has been a while. I'm going to catch back up. I have some interesting stuff coming up here. My friend of mine's been bugging me about my latest 1911 obsession. Wants to get on a podcast about it. So I think we're going to do that. And I've got some big updates coming for the website in general soon. So, all right, come by, check it out, everydaymarksman.co. Thanks for listening. This is Matt. See you next time.